Good morning, Nigeria, and happy Sunday. Welcome to the Sunday edition of Breakfast Extra. I am so glad you could join us this morning. Now, there's one question that's been sitting heavy on my heart and maybe on yours too, as Nigeria prepares to mark 65 years of independence with lace front and photo shoots. Are we really ready for the change we say we want? 65 years old. That's retirement age in some countries, you know. Yet, here we are, still battling insecurity, corruption, and governance issues that our parents and even grandparents fought against. Think about it. In the 1960s, just after independence, Nigeria was already grappling with political instability that led to the first military coup. The soldiers said they were rising against corruption and tribalism. Yet, those same problems are still with us today. In the 1980s, under military rule, insecurity took the form of crackdowns on citizens, journalists, and students who dared to speak out. The likes of Delegiwa in Lagos paid the ultimate price in 1986, killed by a parcel bomb simply for demanding accountability through journalism. Fast forward to the 1990s, under Abacha's regime, the cry was still the same: corruption, dictatorship, and human rights abuses. Activists like Ken Saro-Wiwa and the Ogoni 8 stood up for the Niger Delta, exposing environmental injustice, and were silenced for it. From Kogi, quiet heroes like Sunday Awoniyi, the Saudana of the North, pushed for integrity in politics, often against the tide. And even in our time, 2020 brought NASS, young Nigerians rising with one voice saying, stop the brutality, give us dignity, give us the basics. Yet today, police abuse, kidnappings, and banditry remain unresolved. So when we say we're still fighting the same battles 65 years on, it's not just talk. This is a problem not for the silent generation, the baby boomers, Generation X, millennials, Gen Z. It will also be a problem for Gen Alpha. It will be the same problem if something is not done and done soon. It is a pattern that runs through our history. Different faces, same struggles. Which brings me back to the question. As Nigeria turns 65, maybe it's not just about leadership. Maybe it's about us. Do we really want the change we are shouting for? Or do we only want it when it's convenient? Because every generation has had its heroes, from Lagos to Rivers to Kogi, you name it. People who paid the price for a better Nigeria. The challenge here before us is simple. Will we pick up their torch or keep blowing out candles, birthday candles, year after year, making the same old wishes up never? As we celebrate 65, perhaps this is the time to finally turn our wishes into actions and prove that the change we desire is the change we are ready to build. With that, again, I say good morning. And of course, I am not here alone on Breakfast Extra. I have the one and only Zino Appeal with me.
Well, thank you very much. One and only I will accept. Can you blow out that candle again? It doesn't look like blowing out candles is my point.
I'm blowing wishes.
Yeah, let's take wishes. But grand monologue there. 65 years retirement age for most countries.
Yep.
I think, yes, if I'm wrong. I think it was 60, it's 60 for Nigeria. But in any case, yeah, we have come a long way. And you have to consider exactly where are we going if 65 years on we're still on that way.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. We'll find out come Wednesday. Hey, Queen, come over. Let's start the show.
I am. Good morning once again.
Morning. Once again, you're welcome. It's Breakfast Extra here, and here's what's ahead this morning on the show. Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan back in Senate chambers and back in the spotlight. A heated session, accusation, and also politics behind her dramatic return. That's our big report. We mark World Rabies Day today, a disease that still claims nearly 59,000 lives each year. In Nigeria, community action could be the difference between, well, life and death. Our extra special asks, are we doing enough? In Asaba, an orphanage faces serious allegations, abduction claims, DNA tests, and also NAPTIP is now on the case. We'll break down the facts, the gaps, and also, well, accountability, what that looks like. Nigeria at 65, you heard already, the government says all hands are on deck for a greater nation. But what do unity and reform really mean for citizens still grappling with inflation, insecurity, and youth unemployment? We'll be joined by experts to unpack that. World Contraception Day, choice, freedom, and the power to plan. With Nigeria's contraceptive use still far below target, what's holding us back from giving women real agency over their lives? And in Ibadan, you heard from over the week, history was made as Obarashid Adewolu Ladoja became the 44th Olubadan. Pageantry politics, it was big, and we had our reporter, Victor Mbadike, who was in the sun as he didn't let us rest on the day, telling how hot it was, but yet throngs of people came out to see the ceremony. All that and more right here on Breakfast Extra. First, however, we have the dailies, if I'm not mistaken. Queen, what are we doing for the dailies?
Well, let's see if we have it.
Okay, if I'm not mistaken, the dailies would be Sunday dailies this morning. I see that we might not be doing that, I'm being told. Okay, good. So we're not doing the dailies, but we're going to take a break. And when we come back, well, we'll start in earnest. Stay tuned.
Of course, welcome back to Breakfast Extra, and this is our first big report. In Abuja last week, drama unfolded at the National Assembly complex as Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan returned to her office following weeks of political controversy. Her attempt to resume work was met with resistance as security forces fired tear gas to disperse her supporters gathered outside. The incident, which took place at the NASS gate, left dozens scrambling for safety, with reports of minor injuries and loss of property in the chaos. Businesses around the assembly gate were forced to shut. Traffic was disrupted and witnesses described panic spreading across the area. Supporters called the action brutal and unnecessary. Here are News Central reports filed by Sagir Ibrahim, News Central correspondent. Take a look.
The mission is clear. These supporters are determined to accompany their lawmaker back into her office at the National Assembly complex. Chanting solidarity songs, they marched on until they approached the main gates, facing fierce resistance. Security operatives, having shut the gates after the crowd breached the first entry point, moved to stop them. After repeated attempts, the supporters forced their way through the entrance, but were met with heavy resistance and tear gas from the police.
It's unfortunate that a number of our supporters were tear gassed at the gates, and the gates were closed behind them. It's actually wrong because this is the People's Parliament. People should have unhindered access to the National Assembly.
Despite the setback, Natasha advanced into the Senate wing with some supporters who managed to withstand the clampdown. But access posed another challenge.
A senator has been suspended for 6 months. We are walking down in here, and you are seeing the way people are being manhandled just because they are wearing uniforms and they have the authority of the state.
That is what our law enforcement agents are about. It is about hampering on and victimizing lawful citizens who are armless, while non-kidnappers and bandits are holding press conferences in Katsina.
What had seemed like an uphill battle eventually climaxed as the embattled lawmaker finally stepped into her office for the first time in 6 months, flanked by the few who successfully overcame the barricade.
From the unjust suspension to the recall, it's amazing what we had to survive. And I give God Almighty the glory and my deepest appreciation to the good people of Kogi Central, Kogi State, and Nigeria at large.
The adhesive from the seal is still quite sticky on the door. Well, this is the location, Suite 2.05, the office of suspended lawmaker Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, of course, the destination of the multitudes of her supporters, including herself, who made an attempt to access the premises and also successfully entered this office. The question now on the minds of many is what plenary will look like on October 7 when it resumes after months of recess and upon the conclusion of her suspension. Will she be led back into the chambers? Well, only time will tell. In Abuja for News Central, Sagir Ibrahim.
At the heart of this clash is more than politics. It reflects Nigeria's ongoing struggle between authority and representation. Officials defend the security response, but civil society groups, they see excessive force. Now let's welcome News Central correspondent Sagir Ibrahim to talk to us through the instance he filed in the report, as we can see from what we just saw now. Sagir, good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Mas. Good morning, Queen. Pleasure.
Good morning, Sagir.
So, Sagir, many people do not know that behind the report there's so much that happens. And that's why we have our big report. I can't imagine what it was like there on that day to see the throng of supporters that came to welcome Natasha. But Queen had a very interesting note to give. Queen, if you don't mind, what was that you said while the report was playing?
Every time I say something behind, you just go. So again, my question was, where did the protesters come from?
Exactly.
It was a whole lot of people, and I'm certain because she's representing Kogi State. Did they come all the way from Kogi or they're from Abuja?
Well, from what I understand, Queen, these are supporters that gathered from across everywhere, literally, that they could come from. So whether it's from within Abuja or from as far as her senatorial district in faraway Kogi State,
right,
these supporters came from everywhere. That was the understanding that we got when we saw the multitude of supporters that came. Also, of course, she first was at the FCT High Court, where the case with regards to defamation that was filed against her, she was happening. She finished with that. And of course, the multitude of supporters that you saw at the National Assembly gate, first of all, accompanied her to that, court hearing before they proceeded with her, some of them on foot from the FCT High Court up until the National Assembly gate. With those, for those who are familiar with the distance, who stay in Abuja, it's not somewhere that's so close to each other. It's quite a distance, but these guys persevered. They walked, some of them on foot, up until the National Assembly just to show support and solidarity for their lawmaker.
Okay, Sagir. So my question now would be, why were they teargassed? Is it that the protesters were causing a nuisance? Was it not a peaceful protest? Why did the security
it wasn't a protest
all the way to, having to tear gas the protesters?
Well, Queen, first of all, I'd like to just quickly correct that. Yes, it was not a protest. It was supporters accompanying their lawmaker. So I will not necessarily categorize them, as protesters as much, considering the fact that, some actions, preceded their arrival at the National Assembly, one of which is key, among which is the unsealing of her office. So if her office was unsealed before the arrival of those multitude of supporters, do we now categorize them now as protesters or just supporters fighting for the rights, of their lawmaker? Well, they got to the premises. They got to the first entrance of the National Assembly. They were initially prevented from, accessing the facility, but after a while, they were allowed access into it. They got to the second gate. They were met with the same resistance. After complaining, shouting, and all of that, the gate was finally open. But when it was open the way that it was, they began to troop in, so much so that the police officials there found it necessary to, as much as possible, try to control the crowd. This was when the tear gas started flying. How do we justify shooting, supporters of a lawmaker tear gas just because they wanted to access the premises? In other news, they were able to disperse the crowd. The few who ran, they ran. Others who resisted and stayed with her nonetheless did so. And they were able to get into the arcade of the National Assembly, of course, as you can see here. And that was when they were surrounded by personnel of the Nigerian police force. It was at this point, of course, that she condemned the tear gassing of some of her supporters at the main entrance, but also spoke with them. She called for calm. She explained to them that they were in the National Assembly premises already. This is the 10th Assembly, the People's Assembly, and as such, they should not exhibit unruly behavior because they were almost close to their demands. They were almost close to the goal. They were almost close to the prize. So there was no need for any of them to be unnecessary. Really agitated. From there, she proceeded to the Senate wing of the National Assembly, hoping to be granted access into, the Senate facility. She got there. I must say it was at that point that it really became clear. At first, I noticed it, but I wanted to be sure. And what I'm talking about particularly is the fact that at all times that Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan got to the front of the supporters, she was allowed unfettered access. Maybe because her office was finally unsealed, maybe because she has finally been granted access to, the National Assembly premises. And also maybe this is an indicator that she would also be cleared to resume on October 7 when the National Assembly, resumes plenary and starts sitting again. But one thing that was so clear to me was, especially when she got to the entrance of the Senate building, was that they granted her unfettered access. And the moment that she entered, the sergeant at arms and all other security operatives who were present there prevented every other person from accessing the facility. She was granted free access. And from there, she proceeded, to her office with what little supporters were able to fight their way through the security at the entry points of the Senate building. They got to the office, and of course, she gave the statements that she gave. It was not an easy one. I mean, this is the culmination of 6 months struggle from the very point when she had stood up to speak up against what she described as a violation of her rights, and also trying to silence her on the floor of plenary, which now, of course, took all of the shapes, forms, and sizes that we saw. It culminated in lawsuits, counter lawsuits involving individuals who were not initially involved in the matter. It left the National Assembly, and of course the courts went all the way to her senatorial district where a recall process was initiated. And of course, during all of this time, News Central brought all of the information and gave our viewers a front row seat because we were there from the beginning up until the end. We were there in the National Assembly when it happened, when the court, when the cases started, when the recall process started. I was in her senatorial district, particularly in Okene, to observe the feel of her supporters, of course, which proved that what was being put out in the media was quite different from what we were seeing right there. Well, it went on and on and on. The lawsuit and counter lawsuits went on. There were statements and counter statements. There was the conversation and, of course, the rhetoric of to apologize and not to apologize. And all of that culminated on September 23 with an expectation that maybe this time, when plenary resumes, she would finally be allowed to enter. But in the wisdom of the National Assembly, because even the House of Representatives also, postponed its resumption to October the 7th for whatever reason, up till now, a reason has not been given. Plenary was postponed, but she still made the appearance. And she made the appearance in the way that she did, and she was granted access, safe for her supporters. Now, it might also be understandable why the security men at the gate, may not have allowed her supporters to enter in the number that they did. Number one, the crowd is large, the crowd is volatile, and also there is a protocol for accessing the National Assembly. So, which is, if you're accessing the National Assembly, you do so on the grounds that you were invited, you have an accreditation ID card that gives you access, or you have a visitor's tag. Of course, clearly, we can see obviously that most of these supporters, if not all of them, did not have any of this. So it would really become a big issue if the supporters in the numbers that came were all allowed, into the National Assembly premises. The Senate wing, particularly, that houses the office of senior lawmakers, they would not want a situation where, for example, maybe after accessing the office, because of how unpredictable these demonstrators, I beg your pardon, now say, for example, proceed from her office to the office of the Senate President. Now, I'm just giving an example, this might be one of the reasons why the security men at the gate were so cautious and also so careful as to, control the number of people at that point that access the facility. Because the moment she entered, all other entry points into the National Assembly complex itself, not just the Senate wing, were barricaded, blocked with individuals completely denied access to the facility. So this is some of what played out on the 23rd of September.
That's a beautiful roundup. Thank you very much, Sagir. Sagir, however, I wanted to note something. First of all, I loved your report. I especially loved the one where you were in front of the crowd as they were advancing towards the National Assembly. It looked like Avengers Assemble. I think I noted that inside of Instagram when it was put up. However, I'm very curious about the anatomy of the demonstrators. I don't know if this is a good case for inclusivity, because among the demonstrators, one would have expected that it'd be more women. But here we even saw men, not just young men. We saw people who were well advanced, well, not absolutely advanced, but well into their good years. So I'm wondering what statement that actually says for Natasha, what it says for Kogi State. What do you think? I mean, you can look at them there. Look, these are, you get my point now, don't you?
Well, at some point, in fact, at several locations, as you know, when the demonstrators were at the National Assembly, you would hear unexpected chants, woman king, warrior princess, and the likes of that. Maybe this is the reason why we are seeing so many men, maybe, I don't know. But women were also there, represented in their numbers as well. I mean, there were some parts of the story where we actually showed shots of women dancing in their numbers, proceeding, singing her name and shouting chants. Maybe the reason why we see the men in front is because they want to be, the first line of resistance, support, or the first line barrier to whatever it is happen. Mr. Mas, you will not want a situation where the canisters, the tear gas canisters starts flying and it meets the women because they were the ones in front first. I'm saying maybe this is the psychology behind why the men were in front, but women were definitely well represented as I saw them in as much numbers as the men were.
Okay, then let's talk about her welcome. Now we've seen the passion from her supporters, the demonstrators. What about her colleagues, members of the Senate, or even maybe just the personnel at the gates? What were their response like to her arrival? Was she welcomed in? What did it look like? What was their body language?
Well, lawmakers were scarce. They were scarce on that day, obviously because plenary was postponed. But also, I would say that because of the general expectation that she was going to be there and the way that the security personnel at the National Assembly handled the entire process, I would say it didn't give much opportunity for her to be encountered by her colleagues at the National Assembly. However, there could have been opportunities for that to happen, maybe when she finally got access into her office. But even that couldn't have happened for as much as it would because she didn't stay so long in the office. I believe what she did on that day was just a bold statement to not just her supporters and to Nigerians, but also to the National Assembly leadership to say, I am back, I am here, and expect me boldly appear on the day of plenary. Perhaps if plenary would have held on that day, we would have seen the color and the ambience on the floor of the National Assembly that it would have taken, whether she would have gotten this welcome that you're talking about. But because plenary wasn't on, plenary was suspended, and the recess continues until October 7, many of our colleagues, most of our colleagues were scarce that day.
Okay.
Right. Okay, Sagir, and thank you for correcting me for calling the protesters their supporters. So my question now will be the people that were Teargas, so of course the people who were in front and all that, how was it resolved? Were the police able to, attend to them so, they get some sort of treatment? Were there injuries? Because from the, the reports, we could see the pressure of them pushing through the gates.
So as far as injuries are concerned, I would say at most, because of the way they were dispersed, they are not so conversant with security tactics. But I would say maybe people sustained minor injuries. Of course, our colleagues were also on the ground and they were recipients of the very unsavory tear gas canisters, and at most a few individuals choking and coughing here, maybe some sustaining injuries on some parts of their body, but minor, of course. There was no known incident of anyone sustaining a serious injury to the point, that maybe it became so fatal and life-threatening that the person was rushed to the hospital, or not. So thankfully, that measure up until this point at the back of my mind still seems like just an attempt by police officers to disperse the crowd, reduce the number of individuals that were trying to access the National Assembly at that one time. But of course, this by no means is no justification of their actions. So injuries, maybe not so much.
Okay. Once again, thank you very much for such stellar reporting. Queen also said in the beginning that it looks like the kind of crowd where somebody says, oh, I'm going to go support Natasha, and then the other person says, oh, make we go together. Just a little light note there.
Like the bandwagon.
Exactly. So that was Queen. That's how her mind works. Well, thank you very much, Sagir.
Thank you, Sagir.
We'll continue to follow through till October 7th to see what reaction we get from her colleagues at the Senate. And, well, yes, thank you once again.
Pleasure.
We have another conversation coming your way. Do stay tuned here on Breakfast Extra. We'll be right back. Now, every year, nearly 59,000 people die from rabies worldwide, with over 40% of victims under the age of 15, according to the World Health Organization. Nigeria accounts for thousands of these deaths annually, with most traced to dog bites in communities where vaccination rates remain alarmingly low. Now, rabies is 100% preventable, yet it continues to kill, making it one of the deadliest but most neglected diseases in our public health system. Now, the implications, they go beyond health. Families are left devastated, communities face economic costs of treatment and loss of productivity, and mistrust grows when government campaigns fail to reach rural areas. In Nigeria, where over 70% of dogs are unvaccinated, the disease threatens both human life and livelihoods, putting pressure on fragile healthcare systems.
In past campaigns have been sporadic, underfunded, or poorly coordinated, leaving gaps in vaccination drives and public education. While NAPTIP and veterinary groups push awareness, experts say rabies control demands stronger enforcement, community buy-in, and sustained investment. Globally, the WHO and partners have set a 2030 target to end human deaths from dog-mediated rabies. But achieving that in Nigeria requires far more urgency.
Indeed, it does. Joining us now is Dr. Ofwa Mark, Chairman, Nigerian Veterinary Medical Association, Lagos State Chapter, to help unpack this further.
Good morning,
Dr. Ofwa, you're welcome.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us. While we were reading, I could see you going, yeah.
He agreed.
Yeah.
He agreed.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very interesting because it's been a while since I actually heard plenty of attention on rabies in Nigeria. Growing up in the 80s, it was like on everybody's tongue.
Yeah.
Don't let a dog bite you because, So I'm wondering how far we've come from the 80s up until now. Have we seen a decline in the attention that's given to the disease? Noting how, I don't know how people treat their animals these days, if it still has the same, if they still have the same concern as they used to back in the days.
Okay, so going back in time, the hue and cry from Nigeria was in tandem with the global hue and cry. And then there was a global response, and then countries that were serious have been able to kick out rabies. Eradicated from their countries. But Nigeria, with lip service being paid and the right thing not done, rabies sadly became what we call an NTD, a neglected tropical disease, because it's usually seen in the hinterlands, in the rural communities, local communities around the metropole. You understand? So little attention is paid to it. You hardly find somebody in the city center, the elites, contracting rabies. So because of that, it thrives. It's endemic in Nigeria, actually. It thrives, and then There's little attention.
You explain endemic now.
Endemic, it's there. It's there. It's, it's there to stay. Sadly, little attention is paid to it. It is underdiagnosed. I mean, a child contracts rabies, they say it's evil spirit because of the, when the disease begins to show, the manifestation is nervous, and then the child starts convulsing, and instead of taking the child to the hospital or something, they bind evil spirits and all that, and then because of that, the child dies because rabies is fatal.
Yeah.
And that case is not reported. So it's there, it's not reported, and we need to work. I am very grateful for this team's World Rabies Day, which is act now, you, me, community. Everybody would have to act now to meet that 2030 target of eradicating rabies.
Wow.
Right.
Interesting.
So, this is so funny because I wanted to ask, do you think we have to get to a point where people will really have to apply before having an animal? Because I feel like having to get an animal and then they don't have proper treatments, which also means endangering yourself, in Nigeria. Do you think it's something that they have to consider so that way we can reduce or eradicate rabies entirely?
Absolutely. Now, people get dogs for different reasons. I saw it in the movie. My friend has a dog. I think it's cute and all that. But they do not get a requisite knowledge that should go with owning a dog. For example, rabies vaccination is not something you do because you feel like it. It's a law, actually. You should do it. If you
Doesn't that go with owning a dog and licensing it? In the 80s, you needed to license your dog.
Absolutely,
now,
yeah.
Is your dog licensed?
Yes.
And then, not even beyond that, we now have a proliferation of quacks in the space. And that is a huge problem because these guys are not educated on how to handle these vaccines, on how to handle the dogs, and then some vaccines are actually what we call live culture, live vaccines. So if you mishandle a live vaccine, you are actually going to give the dog rabies instead of preventing rabies.
Because the vaccines are live rabies.
So it's only somebody who has been educated on how to handle them that can handle them correctly. So there are so many factors in place, and what you just suggested is a very good solution. Before you own a dog, get a license. But that now leaves, and that's another reason why rabies thrives in the rural communities.
Right.
How about the stray dogs? Who is going to vaccinate them? That is a huge challenge. Is
there an apparatus on ground to do that, vaccinate stray dogs, and how's that going if there is one?
So currently, the NVMA, the association I represent, we're working. We have veterinarians, and this is very, very beautiful to behold. Veterinarians who say, oh, you know what, I'll take from my pockets, to fund to help with the problem. So we have free rabies vaccination going on, funded by members of the NVMA. We also collaborate with the government to do free rabies vaccination. So we go to these communities and we say, oh, don't worry, don't pay. Just come. In fact, we even give them incentives. Come and you get a gift for your dog or for yourself or something.
Right. Dr. Afua, let me ask, which one is better? If you're going to spend all that money vaccinating these dogs, they're stray anyway, why not just put them down? Empathy?
Yeah, so when you talk about taking dogs off the streets and putting them down.
She's angry with me because I said put them down.
Empathy is a huge one. I'm telling you, the hue and cry will be international. There was a time a dog was killed in an estate in Lagos, Cooperative Villas.
I remember that story.
Yes.
I got calls from the US. I got calls from UK. I got calls. What's going on in your country? I'm telling you, it was international. So such a thing, yes, there's empathy. But if you also look, these stray dogs, stray animals, they have a role they play. Do you understand? Yes, they keep setting rodents and what populations down. So you really don't want to eradicate them because of the backlash and all. So what we say is, yes, the people love them. Some of them are owned, but for example,
free range.
The owner stays in. I've seen such a place where I went to work and I ended up dropping money instead of collecting money for my services because the owner lived in a one-room apartment with the entire family. So the dog had to be. Do you understand? So you get all that.
Then that's a case for the licensing issue. If you're going to own an animal, you should be able to take care of it properly, make sure that it's properly vaccinated, make sure that its well-being is also attended to. But in Nigeria, we simply just get a dog for security. Why do you have a dog, for instance?
for love.
Which is why, and that's the point. So this is what I'm saying. I have a dog for love as well, and I take care of it.
Yeah.
But when you have a dog for watch over me and my motorcycle that I parked outside, it becomes like, it's just a... So do we need that focus on a documentation when it comes to
Absolutely.
animals?
I would say we're a work in progress. So over the years, we have people who had dogs just because security, breeding, you know, and all that. But we are transiting into people. I mean, I'm sitting with two people who have dogs for the companionship. So that tells you that there's a transition going on, you know, and it's beautiful. Then also, let me quickly say this. When we talk about rabies, dogs are most implicated. In fact, people think dogs have rabies. Then you now have to prevent it getting to you.
Right.
That's not true. Rabies is a disease, it's a viral disease. Preventable, 100% preventable. That's the painful thing about rabies. It's 100% preventable. It's a viral disease of warm-blooded animals. So really, warm-blooded animals can contract rabies. Your goats, your cows,
No.
you know, your bats and all that.
I was about to ask, but thank you for
But
bringing it
why
up.
dogs are mostly implicated is, yes, they're closest to us. So you have rabies endemic in the wild, in wild animals, you know,
Right.
but they're far from us. I don't hug monkeys every day or something.
Yeah.
You know,
What exactly is rabies? Now, we all know what the end result is. Hydrophobia,
yes.
where people
Those are
can't...
when you begin to see the signs.
And
yes.
that's when you can't turn back.
Oh,
It's-
yes.
It
Yeah.
becomes
Oh, yes.
fatal then. But what exactly is it? What kind of a virus? Is it a
So it's a
bacteria?
lethal virus. It's a
Virus.
viral disease of warm-blooded animals. Like I said, it's transmitted through saliva. It's carried in the saliva, transmitted through bite and scratch. Okay. So now vaccination prevents it 100%. But the sad thing about rabies, and I think that's also the terrible thing about it, is once rabies takes root, curing is almost impossible. So the patient would almost always die.
Wow.
Once it takes root.
Yes, I think in the history of the world, there's just been one person who survived rabies by
So when you say it takes root, so from the point of being beaten or scratched,
being exposure, yes?
how can they be saved? Is there a time frame?
Oh, yes.
From what time
Beautifully,
to what
yes.
time?
So once there is a bite or a scratch from a suspected animal, a suspected animal now is an animal that has not been vaccinated
Right.
or is not owned or the medical history is shady. Quickly run to the tap, wash the place with soap, detergent, under running water. You know it's carried in saliva, so get rid of the saliva as much as is possible. If the place is bleeding, don't wrap it. Encourage it to bleed because that helps to flush it from the inside.
Okay.
And then when you do that, after that, go to a hospital
Right.
immediately, a health center or something. There's what we call post-exposure treatment that you would get. Quickly, it's expensive, which is another problem, so we're also calling on the government to subsidize the treatment. It's expensive. You need to get series of injections within a short period of time, immunoglobulins and everything, but it can be saved. So the danger now, and children are usually the most exposed, is when there is a bite and it's not treated.
Right.
Until you now start feeling the child maybe having fever and then feeling pains or something, and then you go to the hospital.
Continue with the symptoms. Fever, pains, and then...
yes. General pains, headache, confusion. That is the beginning. And that is when they usually go to the hospital. But then it progresses because it attacks...
Is it too late by then?
Oh, yes, it's already becoming
dear.
too late. Once it's showing symptoms, it's already becoming too late because it has hit the nerves. That's why you're seeing symptoms. And then you see that thing when they say the person begins to bark like a dog. So rabies actually, it affects the nerves. And then we begin to have what's called paralysis, descending paralysis. So by the time the paralysis gets to the muscles that controls the box, the person tries to talk, it brings out very weird sounds that looks like barking. And then there's hydrophobia, there's aerophobia, there is,
Hydrophobia is
fear of water.
fear of water, aerophobia.
Breeze, wind, and they just go into seizures when breeze blows on them. Even loud sounds, all these can trigger the seizures. But by then, it's already too late. The person would almost certainly die.
Interesting. So I think my question now is clearly having a pet is pretty expensive. Sometime a few months ago, India talked about, finding a way to reduce stray dogs in their community. And in as much as it's good for people to have their right to buy pets and everything, do you think when you go to these communities, your organization go to these communities to help them, give these stray dogs free vaccination, and then you leave them back there? how often do you think you can keep going there? Because now they're still exposed to, sleeping outside, playing in the dirt. There's no much cleanliness because I'm sure they're not registered to a vet. So how are you going to prevent them from having recurring issues?
So the key is education. If people know they want to do better, I have seen it happen. Most people don't know. In fact, I have seen somebody, an educated woman in VGC, Lagos. She brought a puppy to me and the puppy was so skinny. She had owned the puppy for like 2 weeks. I'm like, what do you feed the puppy? She was like, feed? And she didn't know she had to feed the puppy.
Oh, really?
She just bought the dog and kept it in the backyard.
Or they run on solar power.
Yes, or they eat grass or something. She didn't know. And honestly, when she saw my shock and
but
I was telling her the dog should be eating 3 times a day, she broke down in tears.
I need to talk to her.
She broke down in tears and she was crying, so she didn't know.
Aww.
So when people know, they do better. So when we take this education to them, which is what we're doing on campaigns, we're going to schools right now, different schools in Lagos State, we're preaching the message, because children, if you want a message to get to adults, tell it to children. It sticks,
Right.
So we're going to campaigns, we're doing all this to ensure that the message goes round.
Right. So now this rabies, sorry, Martin, I need to So the rabies vaccination, is it once or how often do they take the vaccination? Because I know that I think every 3 months my dog takes Bravecto and all what dogs are expensive. But how often do they need this vaccination?
Yeah. So in countries where they don't have rabies, it's actually once in 3 years. But because it's endemic in Nigeria, the loss is every year. So every year you should take, and that's why we do our campaign every year.
Right.
So you should take rabies. The dog should be vaccinated every year by a qualified veterinarian.
Right. So now not those dogs, other animals that you keep as pets.
Oh yes, every animal. Yes.
Good.
Oh yes.
As long as it's a mammal.
Yes, as long as a mammal, warm-blooded, you should talk to your vet about rabies
I
vaccination.
had pet goat when I was a baby.
You used to have pet goats?
Yes.
Did you guys eat it at Christmas? It's not
That's not you have a farm.
You farmed it. So we're talking about vaccination for these animals. What about vaccination for humans? And also, while you're doing that, also tell us the procedure when it comes to treatment. I hear it's a very interesting one.
Yeah, so vaccination to humans, there are humans that we call at risk. So veterinarians, zoo workers, wildlife experts, they're at risk. So those guys can actually take a vaccine that prevents. And the vaccine,
are you vaccinated?
Oh yes, I don't joke with it. I mean, I work with wild animals. I'm
when
a
you say
wildlife
wild,
veterinarian.
please don't tell me snakes.
Oh yes, I'm the snake man of Lagos. You can Google it. I almost brought my snake today. So yes, there is that vaccine that we take that protects us. I think it's about every 5 years we do that. And then, but aside that, when there is now a bite, we now do what is called post-exposure prophylaxis. It's not interesting, I'm telling you. You take several injections, about 4 or 5 injections in a short while, you know. You have to.
And I hear the bore of those needles at this thick.
It's huge, yes.
Why do they have to be that thick?
Oh well.
And where does the injection go?
Deep into your muscle.
Why are you so...
Yes, like you had it before.
I've seen these syringes. They're huge. And I had a friend who got treated for it once.
Yeah.
And she said she got stabbed in the stomach.
Oh wow.
Multiple times.
So we, as veterinarians, we are not trained and licensed to treat humans.
Okay.
So even though I have the vaccine, the post-exposure treatment, I will tell you, go to a hospital. So if the doctor decides to inject you anywhere, that's not my...
Very interesting. Let's talk about India. Yeah, you raised India and compare the situation there. I don't know if you have stats to compare when it comes to how they've dealt with the situation there and Nigeria. We don't hear about people infected with rabies in Nigeria, but you as the doctor, as the expert here, you're telling us that we do have that concern, we have that risk if it's not a concern. So if you compare Nigeria to India, how are we doing when it comes to the global fight against rabies?
You heard about the recent cleanup in India and even how it's caused some concerns and all. These are countries that are not ashamed to own up to the problems they have. And that is one step towards fixing it, you know. So they have statistics because they own up to it, you know, and then they fix it. But in Nigeria, it's neglected. Rabies is neglected, I can tell you that. Was it last month or 2? Last month or so, yes. We isolated the rabies virus from a dog in Ajah, Lagos State. It was in the papers. We reported it, and it had to be from the private sector. And then we went out and we screamed it loud. Look, there is rabies here. And thankfully, we have a government that listens. The Ministry of Agric, they came out. And right now, as I tell you, those communities have been targeted because when you have one, just imagine.
There will be others.
Yeah, so we've targeted these communities to do the free rabies campaign.
Is it true? Now, I know you said it's endemic and it will always be here with us, but is it true that dogs, especially, or bats, actually possess or produce it like venom, that they do not need to, it's not a vector system, it's just in them?
It is not true.
So it is not true.
It's not true. It's a vector system.
It is a vector. Okay.
Yes, so a dog bite does not automatically translate to rabies infection.
Okay.
You understand? The dog has to be infected.
Okay.
Right.
And then come down. For example, if a rabid animal bites a dog that's been vaccinated for rabies, the dog won't contract it. The dog has to be vulnerable to contract it and then give to a human.
Does it manifest the same in dogs as in humans?
Yes, similar.
Hydrophobia, aerophobia, everything.
Very, very similar. We have two forms of it, the dumb form and the furious form. The dumb form, the animal is calm, just staring in space, drooling saliva and all that. The furious form is what we're used to. The animal is mad and charges at anything. Yes, but those are the two manifestations.
Interesting.
Wow, Dr. Mark.
So please, for World Rabies Day, ensure your animals are vaccinated. Ensure your neighbor's dogs are vaccinated.
Yeah.
And animals around. Yes.
It's not expensive, is it?
It's not expensive. It's not expensive. And then there's the free campaign also. It's all over Lagos. So if you think you don't have the money, take advantage of it.
Where do we go? Because I would like to take advantage.
Well, just any local government office around you.
Okay.
They have the agric sector.
Oh.
So when you go there and ask, they will point you, give you the pointers.
They do?
Oh, yes, they do.
Really?
They do. That's it.
We need to take advantage.
I mean, we don't know about these things, is my point. I mean, I didn't know that your local government area had an agric sector, and I could get the injections from there.
Oh, yes, you can go there and they'll direct you.
I'm going to check that out. Dr. Mark, thank you very much. It's been a very, very revealing session here.
Thank you very much.
I would have thought that some conversation about animals was going to be this exciting.
It was.
It absolutely was. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
Don't worry, you get to see Mochi someday.
Your dog is called what?
Mochi.
Mochi.
Yeah.
Mine is called Fluffy. Yeah, who'd have thought the day would come when we'll tell about our animals on air, but we've just done that. That's why it's called Breakfast Extra. We've got more exciting conversation coming your way. Do stay tuned. And you're welcome. It's time for the headlines here for Breakfast Extra. My name is Mazino Appeal. Now we begin in Zamfara, where a tragic mining accident has claimed multiple lives after a pit collapsed in Maru local government area. The incident occurred at the Kadauri mining site, where artisanal miners were working underground before the structure gave way. Local sources say at least 13 bodies have so far been recovered, while several others remain trapped, raising fears that the death toll could increase. Emergency response operations are underway, but authorities are yet to provide full details. The Zamfara State Solid Minerals Agency has acknowledged the incident, noting that more information will be made available after on-site assessments are concluded. And now over to the northeast. Terrorists suspected to be Boko Haram have again attacked Kirawa community in Borno State, claiming the life of a civilian JTF as motorists and passengers sustained different degrees of injuries. News Central's Umaru Kirawa reports that 6 vehicles loaded with food items and other luggages were set ablaze by the terrorists during the ambush along the Polka-Kirawa road on Friday. Reacting to the development, Senator representing Borno South Ali Ndume has called on the military authorities to deploy troops, even if it is a platoon, to safeguard Kirawa and other surrounding communities bordering Goza local government area and the Cameroon Republic. Now to some industrial matters. Nurses and midwives in Zamfara State have begun a 6-day warning strike across state-owned general hospitals. The strike, announced by the state chapter of the National Association of Nurses and Midwives, is to press home demands for the implementation of the Consolidated Health Salary Structure, CONHES. Union Chairman Sani Shehu said while the government approved the new salary package for doctors under the Consolidated Medical Salary Structure in June, nurses and midwives were left out. He added that the association had held several meetings with the government up till August, but no progress was made. To the energy sector now, where the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, PENGASSN, has ordered an immediate suspension of crude oil and gas supply to the Dangote refinery over what it describes as anti-worker practices. The directive, issued on Saturday, affects major suppliers, including Total Energies, Chevron, Seplat, Oando, Shell Nigeria Gas, and the Nigeria Gas Infrastructure Company. PENGASSN accuses the refinery of sacking members who joined the union and alleges discriminatory treatment of Nigerian workers, such as withdrawal of staff buses and restricted site access, while expatriates face no such barriers. The Dangote refinery has denied claims of mass layoffs, insisting only a few staff were dismissed as part of a restructuring to address repeated sabotage threats within the facility. Meanwhile, the Dangote Petroleum Refinery has suspended the sale of petrol in Naira. In an email sent to its customers, the refinery announced that the decision would take effect on September 28, attributing it to the depletion of its crude for Naira allocation. The notice, signed by the Group Commercial Operations of the refinery, was titled Suspension of DPRP PMS Naira Sales, effective 28 September 2025. The refinery said all customers with transactions in Naira who would like a refund of their current payments should formally request the processing of their refund. Now, the United States has revoked the visa of Colombian President Gustavo Petro after he urged soldiers to disobey President Donald Trump. President Petro made the comments on Friday while addressing pro-Palestine supporters outside the United Nations headquarters in New York. Speaking through a megaphone in Spanish, he called for the creation of what he described as a World Salvation Army with a mission to liberate Palestine. The U.S. State Department described the remark as reckless and incendiary and announced that his visa had been withdrawn. President Petro had traveled to New York to attend the 80th session of the UN General Assembly. In his address to the world leaders earlier in the week, he sharply criticized Washington and called for an end to Israel's war in Gaza. And that's all the news this hour. We've got more conversation inside of Breakfast Extra. Do stay tuned. We've got more coming your way.
Of course, this is our first big story. Nigeria marks 65 years of independence, a milestone that comes with both pride and heavy reflection. From the early promise of self-rule in 1960 to decades marked by coups, civil war, and fragile democracy, the country has weathered storms yet still struggling with insecurity, corruption, and economic instability. Calls for unity this year are louder than ever, as divisions along ethnic, religious, and political lines continue to test the nation's resilience. At 65, Nigeria faces daunting realities: youth unemployment, fragile elections, insurgency in the north, banditry in the northwest, oil theft in the Niger Delta, and secessionist agitations in the southeast. The implications are far-reaching. The country's unity, global reputation, and future prosperity depend on urgent reforms and inclusive leadership that can restore truth in governance.
President Tinubu's government has urged all hands on deck with this year's anniversary theme, while the international community continues to watch how Nigeria manages its democracy and economic reforms. For many Nigerians, however, independence anniversaries ring hollow without concrete improvements in daily life. Joining us now, we have Mr. Olubadan Omojo, journalist and publisher of the Midwest Herald. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us on this special, let's say, segment.
Good morning.
As we're looking toward Nigeria being 65. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Happy independence in advance to Nigerians. And I wish this nation prosperity ahead.
Yes. So, Mr. Omojo, let's start with, as a journalist who has tracked, Nigeria's democracy for decades, what stands out to you as the biggest gain and, of course, our biggest failure in the past, 65 years?
I would say the betrayal of our founding fathers, because we have betrayed their trust, we have betrayed their struggle. Just about now, my book, The History of the Nigerian Press, by and large, the history about the foundation of the Nigerian nation is in the press now. And when I was going through my research, I had this misfeeling, how a nation can be so blessed, but yet we have just wasted the opportunity. For me, I think we have not capitalized on what was bequeathed to us by our founding fathers. We have not managed our resources well. We have wasted everything that God gave to us in terms of mineral resources, in terms of human capital. You will find out that the Nigerians have been educated as far back as 1840. Come back to the late 1927. We're already training lawyers in England. There was a time in our history that the United Kingdom borrowed money from Nigeria. We were lending money. There was a time in this country that an economic advisor told a head of state that money wasn't our problem, and went ahead to pay what we call the Doji allowance. It is sad to note as well that Nigerians are not viewed. I'm using the word Nigerians, not Nigeria, because Nigeria is abstracted. It's an entity made of human beings like you and I. We have not capitalized on the inherent value and advantages we had when this nation, Nigeria, when the green-white flag was being hoisted by Nigerians, by the white men, by the representative of the Queen of England, and others with the Queen, all urging us to be a sovereign nation, a sovereign proud nation, because they took as much as they could when they were leaving us. And soon after they left, 7 years after, we started killing ourselves, started killing our leaders. And here we are, as a nation still struggling. But by and large, thank God, we are beginning to get it right. And if we sustain it, if we sustain the progression that we are following now and build our institutions, who knows? By the time we are celebrating the next 3 or 5 years' time, the nation, by the time we are 70, it may just be closer to us to save the world.
Mr. Omojo, it's very interesting. Some of the points that you noted actually took me back. It was like nostalgia. But I wanted to ask, now we've seen a situation where after 65 years, we've had interferences when it comes to military rules in Nigeria. This was an argument between me and a couple of people where they said Nigeria has gotten so many blessings, but sometimes these blessings turn out to be curses. We got out of these military situations into democracy, yet people still argue that perhaps maybe Nigeria might have been better off if it was still in the dark ages of military rule. Now, these are not my opinion. I'm just telling you what I heard people say. Another blessing that they talked about was the fact that we discovered oil. Saudi Arabia discovered oil and became one of the biggest nations in the world. You talked about us giving money out from before instead of borrowing. That could have been our story as well. So in your opinion, which of the many blessings after 65 years of independence has Nigeria, well, has turned out to be a curse for Nigeria so far?
Several things. I feel the liberty we got really as a sovereign, prosperous nation made us to be lazy. Maybe if we have gone through the paths that South Africans went through, even though the black South Africans have equally turned that reasoning on its head. We are not proud to use South Africa now as a benchmark for self-rule. But maybe if we have gone through the struggle of the Mahus of the Kenyan nation, where the black servants were enlisted to elevate their white principles, where students were taking on their white teachers, maybe we would have valued what we got. Maybe we got our independence on the platter. That was too easy for us. Maybe that was why after the independence, we learned the art of killing our leaders. We learned the art of military leaders who could not conform to the principles of nationhood. And the East decided to secede from the country Nigeria. And we had a turning point, negative turning point at that time. So if you ask me, I think the biggest disservice was the laziness of our leaders, whether military, whether politicians, because even when the military were in government or they were in power, it was an odd mix of the civilians and military. Most of the finance ministers, the Okochebos, the Awolowos and others, they were not made in uniform. But the pivotal head, the heads of states, were all men in military jackets. But I think, to me, what was the biggest drawback is not whether they were military or they were politicians, because for not being misinterpreted that one is calling for a military regime, I want to say some of the democratic governance we've had in this country, they virtually provoked the argument. If it were a debate in the school, military government, civilian government, which will you prefer? I'm sure if that was put forward, people like us that made so much, I am what I am today because I benefited from the structural adjustment program, who were the first persons that as we call it, the NDE graduates, National Director of Employment. Shortly after they brought us to Edo College. We were there for 2 weeks. They taught us the nuances of business. We identify our area of strength, our need advantage or advantages to all of us. We wrote our business plan, they taught us, young graduates, and thereafter they sent us to banks. I was sent to Intercontinental Merchant Bank in Ikoyi, Lagos. And my first degree is in graphics, fine art graphics. I said I wanted to set up a printer press. I got a loan of 25,000 naira. I almost fainted. So what would I do with this? What did I do? I went to Ipswich in England. I bought my first printing machine called 13,500 pounds. From there, I had money to get my shop. I asked her. So as a young graduate, after serving the second mechanized division in Ibadan, I became rich. So I have not looked back since. I succeeded from there, NEFOD loan, But the good thing, government does not operate in isolation. It's relative to the people that government is leading. None of us thought of taking that money to marry a wife or spend it on the expensive girlfriends or buy very luxurious cars or want to japa, as they were doing. So we pay back. Then fast forward, I have said it until I'm proven right. And that's why I'm happy that the present president is building the coastal road, because Before now, no civilian government has been able to replicate what IBB did with Teargas Bridge. Each time I live in Lagos, each time I pass through that bridge, I wonder, I said, when can we get a civilian government? IBB was in power for just 7 years. Let's challenge ourselves. We have had presidents that have led us for about 8 years. I stand to be corrected. If you are speeding on top of Teargas Bridge at 100 kilometers per hour, it will take a minimum of 15 minutes for you to traverse that road from Alfred Emmanuel Road to Bagada. 15 minutes of minimum of maximum speed. I have not seen any precedent before the present president that embarked on such a project. So it's not about military, it's not about democracy, it's just about who Nigerians are. And that brings us, maybe as we journey on with the discussion, that brings us closer to what should we do? What should we do? Yeah, democracy suffered under the military. There were some good, all the refineries that we can't.
Mr. Omojo, let me jump. I want to jump on something that you've just noted.
That the military government.
Mr. Omojo, yes. So I exactly that. You actually just said, I wanted to jump on that and say that there are arguments that we had. Yes, there are arguments that Nigeria had better infrastructure under military rule. And then inside of democracy, in these 65 years, we've seen a depreciation of the infrastructure that we had. And it seems that nothing is being done about it. If you are on the Benin bypass today, you will understand exactly what I'm saying. Most of Lagos have roads that were given to us inside of the military regime, and yet today they are non-existent because there has been no maintenance. So in terms of progress for Nigeria, are we going backwards now than we were from maybe even 5 years ago? Is the rate of depreciation faster, is the question.
If you ask me if we are retrogressing, that is still movement, that's backward movement. In my own estimation, we are not even in any motion. We are not in, if one of the honest answers, let's take the 8 years of President Buhari. For 2 years, that government couldn't tell us the foreign exchange policy that the government was going to adopt. By so doing, many of our children repeated classes in American universities. My daughter, Adesua, she was out of university in America, not because I didn't have the money. I had the money. There was no way for us to pay their tuition. More than 100 of our schoolmates. So, I can't call that movement or motion or whether. I think we, at a point in our lives, we were just on the standstill. Standstill because most of the presidents, most of the governors that came lacked the essence of leadership. They lacked that self-love for this country. Because if you love your country, if you love your family, sir, you will do everything. You will do everything to ensure that you make sacrifices for your family and for the country. Our leaders that came, I'm coming, sir. Our leaders that came believe in self, or what I call the selfism. What my professor in UI calls selfism. Everything about them. They never thought of the country. They never thought about their children's future, about my children's future. So stand still. It makes sense, but I believe we have not made any movement until about 2 years ago. The reason I'm saying this, maybe you ask me later, is because first and foremost, now I can project now I'm a businessman, I'm a journalist. I can project now. I'm free to write my stories as long as I follow the five W's and the H. And I ensure that I respect people's liberty. I don't cross the barrier. It wasn't so before. The harassment was so much. We couldn't even buy newsprint because we were not sure how much we'll buy tomorrow once you buy today. So now we can plan. And my prayer is that Nigerians should be to think about the country so that we can move faster than we ought to be moving now.
All right.
Yeah. So, Mr. Mojo, you've made it clear from all that you've said that the Nigeria of a few years ago is not the Nigeria we're in. As in, back then we're talking we don't need money. Here we're asking for loans every week and every conference. And of course, the theme of this year's independence is all hands on deck. And of course, the government is also talking about unity and all that. Do you think Nigerians will believe them when they say all hands on deck, knowing fully well that what we're going through now is a far cry from what Nigeria used to be?
I think we don't have any reason not to believe our government. We don't have, yes, there's this element of doubt because we all have seen what has gone on. But as a Nigerian that constantly lived in this country for over 40, 50 years that I became an adult, I would say Nigerians do not have any option but for us to believe in our government, for us to support our government. There is something Nigerians are not doing, which we were doing then. And maybe this will encourage the younger ones, and some of our colleagues too. I still see them around. Then we were questioning our leaders. We were questioning our government constructively. When we set out to say the military must go, we did it because of the love of the country, not because we were partisan, not because we were part and parcel of one party or the other. We just wanted democracy to come. What happened? Corruption that we complained about under the military because we were not accountable. Nobody will ask them. We are aware of our Unduka, Unduka Irabo, Tunde Thompson of the Guardian were arrested just because they exposed, not that they exposed, they wrote about their ambassadorial list that has not been officially released. That was it. Today we speculate. It's what we call it speculative journalism. Hiding under the guys who say, as alleged. But they're not doing that. Who do you want to allege? The military or whatever? So, but the freedom of speech, looking at that, we had every reason to support that. We are not constructively asking the right questions.
Right.
We ask a question with a kind of bile in it. As if you say, now you just mentioned the Benin bypass, sir. I'm very, very happy that even though your studio is far from us here in Benin, you have raised that. That is an interesting agenda setting that I think that the media can take up. You send your camera there every day or every week, you have your footage, you have your voice pop, people struggling on that road.
Yeah.
The Minister of Works, we see how people are suffering on that road. And those people will quickly get, we quickly get
Mr.
support from the federal government.
Mr. Mojo.
Sorry, let me learn with this. What we are saying now with our colleagues in media, let me just say that.
Yeah.
Is that even when you are complaining, somebody that will be in the vehicle to say, make them pass, I beg. Now today it happened, now this got my concern. These same Nigerians that are struggling inside the buses will be attacking the journalist that is trying to film. I saw not too long ago where your reporter was attacked somewhere in Lagos State. I listened to it on Arise Television, that they were questioning those that attacked your cameraman and all that. So we don't have any choice. Nigerians must support our body must question them constructively as well.
All right, then.
So, Mr. Omojo, thank you so much. I apologize for interjecting, but because of time, I have to do that. But thank you for joining us and giving us your insights as to how Nigeria is headed for, its 65th birthday. And happy independence to you, of course.
Happy independence to you as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. May God bless Nigeria.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Now we're moving on to our next conversation here, and it's a very interesting one. Now this, a storm of controversy. It's erupted over a raid by the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons at the Happy Home Orphanage in Asaba, Delta State. The agency asserts that on June 15, 2025, operators rescued 8 children alleged to have been stolen from Kano State, but the orphanage's proprietor and some local voices say the children were abducted. NAPTIP officials say the operation was carried out based on verified intelligence and that they coordinated the Delta State Police with the Delta State Police to ensure security. While the legal debate over whether it was a lawful rescue or wrongful abduction intensifies, the human dimension is the most urgent. Families are clamoring to identify their children. Several claimants have come forward, and NAPTIP has insisted that no child will be released without conclusive DNA testing. The broader implication is about trust in institutions. If people fear that child protection agencies may overreach or act blindly, reporting cases and cooperating with law enforcement, well, that may suffer.
And the Trafficking in Persons Prohibition, the Enforcement and Administration Act 2015 gives NAPTIP broad powers to investigate and prosecute trafficking, but also imposes responsibilities for due process. In this case, confusion is magnified by conflicting claimant stories from Kanu and Delta and by the proprietor's absence during the raid. And joining us now is the activist and filmmaker Ajemba Chibweze to help us unpack this further. Good morning, Ajemba. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, Ajemba. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Before we go into asking you questions, we wanted to note that we did invite members from NAPTIP to come be represented here on this conversation. However, while they were willing, they are unable to make it in this week. They will be available next week to be able to answer some of the questions that we might have for them.
Yes. Thank you, Mazino, for noting that. So, Ajemba, let's just talk about, just give us an overall view of what's happening right now. What are the claims and what are the counter? What exactly happened?
My name is Comrade Ajemba Stanley. I'm a human rights activist, the Director General of On Top Care's human rights organization, Asaba. On the 16th of September, I was contacted that there was a raid in an orphanage home very close to my house. So I reached out to my team, and we went there on the 15th of September with our own local investigation. We found out that the officials of NAPTIP from Kano State invaded Asaba illegally, because even the Delta State Police Commander are not aware, because we went to see the PPRO of Delta State and the B division where they said they dropped a letter before picking those children. We went everywhere, even to the Commissioner of Women and Affairs. They said that they are not aware that NAPTIP came into the town and removed 8 children from Happy Home Orphanage. This didn't happen I was not there, but according to what they told me, on the 15th of June, NAPTIP officials from Kano came to Anambra State for an investigation of an alleged child trafficking in an orphanage in Anambra State. But when they reached there, according to them, they said they didn't see the person they came for. They now moved to Delta State, because this orphanage here, Happy Home, is very close to the Niger Bridge. Like, let me say, 2 minutes drive to the Niger Bridge. So they invaded the orphanage in Delta State, came there, said, where is pastor, where is pastor? They pointed at the grown-up kids, the grown-up orphans there, and picked 7 of them. So this girl that is wearing hijab said no, because she's a nanny. She said, no, why are you packing the children? Because even the woman that takes care of the children, she also shouted, why are you taking the children? Where is your letter? They said they are from NAPTIP, Oka, not Kanu. So the lady, 17 years, was blocking the highest boss from them to moving those 7 children. They now pick the girl put her inside the vehicle and say, since you don't want to allow her to go, let's carry you along with other kids. So they took those 8 children to Kano, because the following day, the proprietor of the orphanage went to Oka, because they dropped a note saying that they are from NAPTIP, Oka. He went to Oka. When he reached the Oka told him that, no, these people came from Kano. They are not from Oka. Please, the man should go to Oka and then verify. The man left. The same NAPTIP said that the man is running an illegal orphanage. That the man is one of the biggest child or children trafficker in Delta State and beyond. Okay, there are 28 or 26 children in that orphanage. You came there, you said that the man runs an illegal orphanage. You didn't take the remaining 16 children. You only took 8 and left 16. What would you call that one? Is it not an illegal raid? You came to that place, you said that those people are child traffickers. You didn't arrest the wife of the owner of the orphanage. You came there, you took 8 children to Kano. Reaching to Kano, you Islamized them, changed their names, all their Igbo names, to Muslim names, forcing them to go to mosque. If they don't go to mosque, you start them and you flog them, because even while we were there, we called the children. That was a number the children used in calling us, because they have the proprietor's orphanage number off head. So they called us that day and said that they are forcing them to go to mosques every Friday. That if they refuse to go, they will flog them. If you look the video, this picture, you see this girl. She's putting up hijab. She has been converted from Christian to Muslim.
Okay, Ajemba.
This is not just a fact.
Ajemba, the story is rolling. It's very interesting. Let's take a step back. How long have these kids been away from the orphanage in Asaba?
How long what?
How long have these kids been away? When were they taken away?
On the 15th of June, 2025.
Okay, so on the 15th of June, 2025, since then, had any attempts been made to try and get them back to Asaba? And the many claims that you have made, are there facts to prove them? For instance, how did the kids get access to a telephone to call back to Asaba? That's one. And then the claims of them being asked to convert their religions, how can we verify that? Okay, when these men of NAPTIP came to Asaba or I will call it adoption, because it's not a legal removal, it's an adoption. When they came from Kano to adopt 8 children from Happy Home Orphanage, the proprietor went to Oka, because they said that they are from Oka, NAPTIP. They went to Oka, NAPTIP, and reported the case. Look at what happened. No. They say no, that these people came from Kano, not Oka. The man left Oka to the Ministry of Women Affairs, to the Commissioner of Ministry of Women Affairs, went there, wrote a letter that 8 children were removed from his orphanage by NAPTIP Kano. The Commissioner of Women Affairs wrote a letter to NAPTIP Kano requesting the return of those children. And NAPTIP replied them, said that they are suspecting the proprietor to be a child trafficker. That was why they removed the children from that orphanage. And they're not going to return the children until the man comes to Kano. Okay.
So now...
That was what happened.
Okay. Thank you for that. Now that, so we're certain that the kids are safe and in Kano, and, they're able to call Asaba. The proprietor has not been able to go to Kano to claim these children. It's been 3 months.
Okay, you know that on that 15th of June, 2025, they adopted these children. They didn't make any press statement on their page. They didn't post that they were in Happy Home Orphanage on the 15th of June to remove 8 children until we started raising alarm on the internet, calling them out on the internet. That was when they made a press statement. Again, I will not advise the man to go to Kano because it's another man's land. It's a very far away land from here. Because once he gets to that place, they will start changing the story, detain him. Because we have had rumors of an orphanage in Jos, where the same Kano NAPTIP went there and took 28 children. 28 children. And when they arrived the Nasarawa children home, they Islamized all of them. They were all Christian. They Islamized the 28 children and gave them Muslim names until the woman took them to court and won. Even them, they disobeyed the court order that they are not going to return the children. Afterwards, after months, they now returned the children to they returned 20 children to the orphanage and remaining 8. The 8 are still in Nasarawa children home. Till now, day for yesterday, my representative went to NAPTIP office headquarters in Abuja and met with Binta Bello. And Binta Bello told them that because we have been requesting for DNA, they didn't reply us. We said that since you said that these children have parents in Kano and now they also have parents in Delta, let's do a DNA test. They were refusing until my representative, therefore, yesterday went to their office and they have now agreed that they will do DNA, but they have not given us date yet.
So, Ajemba, you just mentioned that you would not advise the proprietor to go alone to Kano, which of course kind of makes sense. But since you also said that the Women of Affairs has been involved, don't you think it has to be a collective move? One person can't go. If there's a certainty that these kids were not trafficked, don't you think that 3 months is long enough for the government of Asaba, Women Affairs, to investigate and go and get these kids? You also gave an instance where another orphanage home, they took 28 kids and returned 20 against the will of the court, which is, that is, against the law in Nigeria. So don't you think that this is the time for, the government to come together and get these kids back to Asaba where they belong?
I will say that Delta State governments are not doing anything. We went to see the Commissioner of Women Affairs. The only thing she offered to us is prayer. She prayed for us to go in peace and come back in peace. Instead of doing her work as the Commissioner of Women Affairs, she prayed for my team to go and told us that we should be careful because it's another man's land. How can a commissioner that is in charge of women affairs and community development tell us to go to, offer us prayers to go to Kano? On Thursday, we are supposed to have a protest, a mini protest procession at Government House. We wrote a letter to the Commissioner of Police for aid. He should give us men to guide us that day. This Thursday that just passed. They begged me. They said, no, that protest is not allowed now. I listened to them because I know that we have sent our representative to DG office, DG NAPTIP office in Abuja. Now, let me tell you, the Delta State governments are not concerned because these kids are not from Delta State. They are from Enugu and Anambra. So they are not, because they are not from Delta State, they don't want to pull them out. The only thing that the Commissioner of Women Affairs did was to write letter to NAPTIP. And NAPTIP replied, and that was all. When we went to our office, it was just giving us, praying for us, instead of calling the Commissioner of Women Affairs in Kano, giving him or her order to return those kids to Asaba. These kids called us on phone. They said that they spent 2 days traveling from Asaba to Kano. They didn't give them anything. They bought pure water and bread for them on the road. A child of 5 years, a toddler, 5 years, was among the kids. He just lost his father this February. The toddler lost his father this February. After passing through the loss of his father, he's still passing through stress of NAPTIP in a lawless country, in a country that they don't obey the law. You came to an orphanage without a court order. You evicted 8 children, took them to Kano, and you are telling us that those children were the children that we are mixing in Kano. So how did they get to Asaba? These children have parents. Some of them, their father died. The mom or the family didn't have such money to take care of them. So they took them to orphanage. So that was why I said, I was the one that raised the issue of DNA. I told NAPTIP, let's do DNA.
Okay, Ajemba.
So that was what happened.
Ajemba, it's a very interesting story. And from everything that you have said, it seems that you're pointing somewhere. So let's just go ahead and ask you, what exactly are your suspicions? Why were these kids, according to what you have seen, why were these kids, in your words, abducted from Asaba to Kano State? Your suspicions.
Okay, my suspicion is this is what they do. They go to Christian orphanage. They take children because they have the power. They say that they are the persons in charge of those trafficked persons. They will now use that power, go to an orphanage, that is a Christian orphanage, take grown-up children about 16, 15, 14, take them to Kano. During election, they will register them, they will give them voters' cards, and they will start voting. That's why we have the highest votes in Kano. This is what is happening.
Okay, so these are your suspicions.
Illegality that is happening in Nigeria.
All right, so these are suspicions. Let's make that clear that these are suspicions, okay?
Okay, thank you, Mazino. So, Ajemba, the issue now is, you're saying that most of the kids in this orphanage are kids from people who are not able to take care of the children. Have they been able to come out with, the birth certificates? And how sure are we that the people coming out to claim these children are the real parents? Because you also mentioned that one of the children who's 5 years old, dad died in February. So how do we know that the people coming out to claim these kids are the real parents of these kids?
All right. That was why I said, let's do a DNA.
Okay.
If we not see the father, we'll see the mother. If we don't see the mother, we'll see the grandmother, we'll see the grandfather.
Right.
We'll do a paternity test, we'll do a DNA test to confirm that these kids are these people's own. And the NAPTIP came to Asaba. They said that they saw 70-something children in the orphanage, and they used pictures to take, they used pictures to point the ones they say that they are from Kano. It's a lie. It's a lie. The people that they left there is 16 children, 16 kids. They took 8. And these parents they have come out with their birth certificates and their primary school testimonials to claim their children. They say that they are having a loss of over 2,000 children from Kano in 2017 to 2022. But some people, if you check the birth certificates here, some are 2008, 2009, 2016. So how will NAPTIP do such illegal raid in a registered and well government recognized orphanage in Delta State?
Right.
If we do not stop this illegality, these people might move to other states and do such thing.
So, Ajemba, now I think my last question now would be, what is the proprietor doing? He's the one in charge of the home. So clearly, when these people came to the orphanage, he was not around, or his wife was not around, hence why they were able to take the 17-year-old girl who is supposed to be their nanny, like you said. Have they been able to go to court? Since if all you got from the Women Affairs office was prayers, has he been able to, find his way to court, since you say you're not getting any help from the government?
Okay, since NAPTIP has agreed to do a DNA test, I think if we do a DNA test, no need for courts. But if they still refuse for us to do a DNA test, we will take NAPTIP to court. We have briefed all our legal counsels. We have briefed everybody. They are aware of all these movements. We are waiting for the dates of this DNA. The DG of NAPTIP told us that he's going to transfer these children from National Children Home to Abuja. That was on Saturday, yesterday. That was what he told us. So when they arrive, they are going to contact us to bring the parents for DNA. So we are waiting for a date. NAPTIP should give us dates. And again, I want to say something. The DG of NAPTIP needs, after the DNA test, needs to resign, because she's incompetent. She knows nothing. She doesn't know what she's doing in that office. If she knows what she's doing, she would have called the parents, called the director of the orphanage. What is really happening? Come to Abuja, let's sort this thing. Instead, she balanced in her office. A government organization. Are we not the government? Are they not serving us?
Ajemba, I want to say thank you very much, but we also want to note that, like from before when we told, we did invite representatives of NAPTIP for this conversation,
yes,
but they were unable to make it today because of scheduling conflicts. So they will be here next week. We are hoping that they will keep to that promise so we can ask them further questions. We hope that we find the conclusion of this matter because they are serious allegations that you have made against NAPTIP.
Yes.
So hopefully when we have them back, we'll have you on as well so we can get more clarification on the situation of these kids that are said to have been taken from Asaba to Kano. Ajemba, thank you very much for keeping the matter alive, and we'll hope that we see the bottom of this soon.
Thank you so much, Ajemba. And now let's go on a short break, and when we return, we have more news inside Breakfast Extra.
And you're welcome. Yes, it's not time for the news, it's time for news strips as we take a look at the editorial cartoons that made it last week, and we try to interpret them in words. A picture, they say, is worth 1,000 words, so some of these, when you see them, you get the idea, but it helps also when we get to talk about them in detail. And of course, joining me would be Queen Celestine, my very able co-host so far. Thank you very much.
Hi, Captain.
Are you ready? This is your best
ready.
segment for Breakfast Extra,
my
by
favorite.
the way. Let's see what we have as our very first strip. And of course, an array of very interesting ones today. This one. Now, Queen, I saw this morning, or rather I saw it during the week, but this morning when we were talking about deliberating is exactly how we're going to interpret this. It was a very interesting debate. Now, this is your Minister of Finance, Mr. Wale Edun. And of course, you can see him there holding a broom and showering blessings on poor Nigerians. Now, these aren't just blessings. These are 330 billion naira that the federal government says that it is giving to underprivileged Nigerians, poor Nigerians. About 18 million households have been selected that will be beneficiaries of these funds. Somewhere around 25,000 naira is what they're giving them. However, in tranches. I don't know, I've not seen anybody who has received this, but they say that they're at least 80% through. Well, is it 80% now? I'm not so sure on the figure, but they have started to make these disbursements. But very interesting characterization here, Wale Edu there, like a magician, and you guys are getting these gifts from the federal government. But notice that he is carrying a broom, and that is the apparatus with which he is dispensing these monies. What does that say? Well, the APC, of course, you know, is the presidency, and they have made this possible for less privileged Nigerians. I'm not exactly sure why the Minister of Finance is the one in this picture here, because this is being run through a NASCO. It's called NASCO. The cash transfer is being implemented through NASCO. That's National Social Safety Net Coordination Office. It's a form of palliatives or subsidies for Nigerian people because times are hard. But I don't know, 15 or was it 18 million households out of 250 million people? Well, we wait to see how this will help the situation. But for me, it's the broom and the very paltry showers of blessings that are coming to poor Nigerians that worry me. And we still wait to see exactly how many people will say that they have absolutely gotten these benefits from the federal government. What do you think, Queen?
Mazino, can you tell me how much is written on the magician cap?
330 billion naira.
330 billion. To give 18 million Nigerian
18 million households. So that would be in multiple, so you have to multiply that. Let's make that clear.
So that'll be about 25,000 per household?
Oh, now that you said that, 20, thank you. See, that's why you're smart. 25,000 per household. And it's not everything in full. It's in tranches. So you get a little today, a little tomorrow, a little next.
Maybe, you know, we're always collecting loans and we always have outstanding bills. Maybe if they take the 330 billion naira and pay, I think the household will survive without that 25,000 naira.
Interesting. Very funny that I should talk about loans. I'm hoping the producers will put up that one, the next strip here that's about loans. In fact, we have, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 2 of these editorial cartoons from last week that talked about loans. Take a look at this. It's got a very interesting predatory note on it. online loans and Nigerians being fed upon by, I don't know what you call them, mostly fintechs. Have you realized how easy it is to get a loan on one of these now?
No.
Because they're taking your suffering, Queen. It's your suffering they're preying on. And they're asking you, here, have a little bit more. Take some more. Take it now. It's always so enticing, is the problem. And it's easy to get. But once you enter, it's a web of entrapment.
A spider web.
You're stuck.
And this is no Spider-Man coming to save you.
Nope, no way home this time. No way home at all. How much are you in debt, Queen? How much have you borrowed?
Good thing is I don't borrow. It's something that I don't see myself doing, because if I owe you, I'm going to have sleepless nights until I pay. So I don't know how we're going to celebrate and how big our cake is going to be for Nigeria, knowing fully well that we have, loans hanging over our head. Nigeria, please.
Grand. Well, lucky you. At least if you ever were in debt, you could cook your way out, because you could just offer them
Yes,
food.
I will.
By the way, Queen is a great chef. I just wanted you to know. But let's ask our producers. Please, can you guys tell us in there how much you guys are in debt? Who's owing how much?
You asked
Collins, Neighbor, Annie? Someone is owing 100K. So
just come like the spider web. Just come and lay down there.
This is you. So you don't have to go far. You don't have to go far. I won't mention his name. It's a ruckus in my ear. I won't mention his name. But this is the producer right now. It's entrapment, and it's not getting any easier. They're actually just feeding off of Nigerians suffering. And it's sad. I think there's another one that has to do with loans, if I'm not mistaken. If there isn't, grand. Scene. Now, over the week, there's plenty of talk about FCT minister owning a home. Sure has come up with facts, well, what he calls facts, that this seems to be a very interesting discrepancy regarding these homes. Come out clean. The size of your mansions won't cover you. Petition to the Attorney General of Florida. The house belongs to my wife, given to her by her father or his father, I'm not too sure. And that's supposed to depict a figure that's supposed to be Wiki and his wife from before that. Now look at what she's saying here.
Oh, sweetheart. Huh?
As in, what did they give you a house? I wait to see where this story will go this week. I want to know exactly how Shore is going to play his card. Many people think that he's full of antiques, but then whether you like it or not, he is exposing certain discrepancies when it comes to governance and bringing it to the fore. And that's his fashion or his kind of advocacy. Well, how else can we hold people in public offices to account if we don't have somebody who's always there stoking the fire under them? So let's hope that this will give us more accountability when it comes to our office holders, well, being accountable. Let's put it so. I won't say too much about this one. We've got more. I'm not wearing a watch. We've got more coming. Let's see what next we have on the international scene. Now, Queen, have you been following what's been happening across the world, especially in Gaza?
Sad.
It's a very sad situation, but then it has other implications. The implications are that you and I here in Nigeria are not separate from what's happening. But let's take a look at this cartoon first of all. Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, flying past an American-designed plane made in the USA is what it says here, by the way. And he's taking a look at that very flimsy paper plane that's got, I think that's Britain, Australia, and Canada, whom at the 80th UNGA, United Nations General Assembly, recognized Palestine as a sovereign nation. Palestine has said they're going to be holding elections and we're going to concretize all of this. But Netanyahu is looking at them with a smirk on his face like, yeah, I'm in this machine and I've got allies. They're American. You have got what? Paper planes? What you going to do now? This gives you a dynamic of what's happening inside of the world regarding allegiances, or rather alliances. You can say, hey, we recognize Palestine, but what else can you do apart from recognition? Is recognition stopping babies from getting killed and bombs from shelling Gaza? People will say no. What action should be taken? Many people aren't saying anything because of the extended coalitions, or no, not coalitions, relationships that they have with Israel, whether you like it or not. And in a moment, I will implicate Nigeria with the next cartoon. But let me get what you have to say about this.
I think all I can say is, looking at this, it's given, big brother and, oh, I'm trying, I'm begging. We have to get to a point where we choose peace instead of, going back and forth. There's always a conversation. We agree, we don't agree. Whereas, it's like two elephants fighting, and of course the grass is one suffering and the ants and everything. I feel like they all need to get to a point where they come to a point and say, what, we want peace. Okay. That's all everybody wants.
Grand. Well, let me now implicate Nigeria. I'm hoping, there it is, grand. Here we are. Of course, the iconic hat, and this time he's a fuel attendant. Only not in your car, but in a tank that says genocide machine and a very familiar face. By the way, this is Daily Trust, and that's Bulama, very interesting artist. That's the smirk again once more. That's Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, and a figure that could be identified as Nigerian. Nigerian oil being pumped into a genocidal machine that reflects the situation in Israel. It's going to go bombard Gaza. We stand with Palestine somehow. What does this say? Nigeria is one of the first countries to actually recognize Palestine, not even at the younger, from years from before. So we've actually been recognizing Palestine from since before. However, Nigeria still trades in oil with Israel. So if you're helping fuel their war machine and you're saying we stand with Palestine, yeah.
Stand somewhere.
And it's not just Nigeria, many other nations as well. Even if they're coming out at UNGA and saying that we recognize Palestine, they still have relationships or trade affiliations with Israel. And that's what makes this war in Gaza a very sticky one. That will be the last one. But if you have anything, you want to add anything to it?
All I can see there is somehow. So stand somehow, somewhere.
Yeah.
Just stand.
It's very hard. It's very hard. You either are here or there. Well, actually, no. Most countries are in the middle.
Right.
We stand with Palestine, but yeah, let's have your money.
Somehow.
It's a crazy situation in the world. But those were the strips we selected for today. Thank you very much. We hope you enjoyed them, and we're giving more perspective to what they meant. Come next week, well, Queen, you'll be enjoying it again. I hope from here still. We're going to take a break now. When we come back, we've got more conversation here inside of Breakfast Extra.
And welcome back, and we'll be talking wellness in Breakfast Extra. Every September 26th, the world marks World Contraception Day. A reminder that choosing if and when to have children is central to health, dignity, and development. Yet millions still face unintended pregnancies due to poor access to contraceptives, education, and services. In Nigeria, modern contraceptive use is only 16.3%, far below the 27% target. This gap leaves many women without real reproductive choice, leading to unsafe abortions, maternal deaths, and economic strain. It also deepens gender inequality, limiting education, careers, and agency. The ripple effects touch society at large, strained health system, disrupted schooling, and a weaker demographic dividend. Nigeria once pledged to lift contraceptive use to 27%, but progress has stalled. Uptake varies wildly. Myth and stigma persist, and supply chains often fail. Many women discontinue early, making the promise of choice more rhetoric than reality. Now, joining me now is Rashidat Sani Afolabi to unpack this further. Do I say doctor or?
I'm a nurse.
You are a nurse?
Yes.
Good morning, Nurse
morning.
Rashida. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Okay, it's just me and you. Masina is not here. So contraceptive is something that, we've been talking about year in, year out for women. I know, of course, a lot of questions, but I will just allow you to unpack and tell us more about contraceptives. Why are a lot of people scared about it? Why are some people are overtaking it? What's the issue, and why are some people scared to take contraceptives?
I think, firstly, it has to do with awareness.
Right.
And the fear of unknown. An average person, with the social media messaging here and there. Everybody can just go online and put any information there, and before you know it, it starts to trend. And people oftentimes listen to hearsay or experiences from their friends that probably had one or two methods done, and because such person had maybe unfavorable concerns or side effects that we usually refer to, and because of that, my friend did it some time ago, and probably she was potting, so I don't want to use. So, those are some of the reasons. The other hand is that some people overuse or they use it indiscriminately, whereby they do not have enough information regarding how best to go about the family planning spacing or having to prevent pregnancy, and they just use emergency contraceptive pills, which is not so advisable. But if, like it is, emergency, it shouldn't be something that one would have to use day in, day out. So I think those are some of the reasons why people might not want to take up
contraceptive.
Yes.
So now let's talk about, how do you see the gap between, the awareness, that's education, as to people knowing about it, and then people having access to it?
Okay, in terms of awareness, sincerely, in this part of the world, especially for those of us in Lagos, the awareness is really top-notch. But looking at awareness and uptake, that's where we have the gap. So we realize that, yes, an average person, when you move to the person and talk about family planning or child spacing or having to prevent pregnancy, yes, they're aware, but for whatever reason, they're quite enormous. We find out that the uptake is still quite low, although we are still far in terms of prevalence as against other parts of the country. So I think that in terms of uptake, some of the reasons is maybe due to value system, then our sociocultural practices, our beliefs, and also experiences of other people around.
Right. Okay, so now let's talk about experiences. I'm sure you've met a lot of young girls, either the ones who were like, oh, I don't know how I got pregnant or why I got pregnant, What has been their fear, about contraceptives? Like personally, oh, I didn't know about it, or I was scared because someone took it and then they got pregnant. What was their major fear, and how did you handle that?
Firstly, is as a result of not being so much aware of the implications of their actions or inactions. So if, let's say, the young girl child, or whatever reason, she gets pregnant, but because she was not, yes, she knows that they space children, firstly is because probably the fear of stigma of being discriminated against. They do not want to come to the facility, maybe with the fear of, I might get to know somebody, I might get there and see somebody that knows me, or when I get there, the health workers might not attend to me well. So in doing that, they don't mind. And because if you look at their age brackets, the issue of wanting to try out different things, they can take a lot of risk. It's until when they now come down with unwanted pregnancy, unplanned pregnancy, and that's when they're not like, oh, if I'd known. So basically, I think we have to do more of educating them right from home and also within the school system, such that we are, in as much as we are not trying to encourage them to be exposed to having sexual relationship on time, but then we find out that we still have some outliers, and we have many reasons. There are some children that are out of school. When they're out of school, you find out that they're exposed to a lot of vulnerable conditions, and people can take advantage of them. So when they're aware of this information early enough, they can make informed decisions. And also, going back to the service delivery, the healthcare workers have been so trained, and the training is still ongoing, is a continuous training, whereby we now understand that, yes, we have age group where even adolescents, you find them, if they walk into the facility, you shouldn't say, what are you doing here? Are your mates? Because if you don't attend to such a child, she will eventually probably get somewhere or be exposed to sexually transmitted infections. Of course, pregnancy will not be prevented. She's not ready to keep the pregnancy. In the process, she wants to make sure that she wants to terminate it by all costs. Of course, she's not going to patronize a professional. She'll have to go to the quacks. And you know what quackery does? She's exposed to infections, other complications, and if care is not taken, she can even lose her life. So because of that, we have to make sure that both at the service side and also the demand side, we are making our information so balanced in such a way that when we have children that are exposed, that are already sexually active, what we need to do is to educate them, empower them, and give them the choice, ability to make informed decisions. But if they're adolescents, we still have some limitations here and there because of parental consent. And with that, we encourage her to come with an adult or the parents so that they can sign before we go ahead to administer the method. But as health workers, we do not in any way turn them back.
Right. So thank you for not turning them back. So now let's talk, the men in the lives of, the women and, of course, parents. You've talked about education, having them to know. And, of course, in this age and time, a lot of people have trust issues. So what role do you think the men in their lives should play? Because sometimes, like you said, some of the girls are scared to come in to say, oh, I'm going through this or this has happened. How do I? So what role do you think men can play in helping them, know more about, contraceptives and being safe?
Okay. Male involvement is something that we are very big on, generally, as far as public health is concerned. Because you find out that almost all our services are interwoven. And for child spacing or having to plan the family, whether as a youth or even someone within the matrimonial setting, we cannot overemphasize the importance of the male. Because when they are well informed, they are the ones that will give the support to the female that, oh, you have to go. In fact, let me give you an instance. We've had instances where the men will come to the facility and tell you, nurse, please, I want you to tell my wife the way they are doing it, the way their peers have been doing it, so that she will not, every time she doesn't have to keep telling that, I've missed my period, there should be a way. Whereas we find that on the other side of the tape, we find out that some people some people even come to the facility and say, why did you administer family planning method to my wife? Not forgetting the fact that this woman she's not a baby, she's married, she's an adult. So, but because they are not so informed, so when we have those that are very educated, those that are enlightened, those that know the importance of family planning, we also have on the flip side, those that are very ignorant about the benefits and in terms of the maternal health implication, the socioeconomic importance and benefits to himself and other children in the home. So by and large, for us as health workers, we strongly advocate for male involvement and participation, their support, for them to understand the fact that, yes, when you allow your spouse to take up family planning method, it's an opportunity for her to be healthy. Her mind is at rest, your mind is at rest. It even makes the process easy and enjoyable because you are relaxed, you are not afraid of any form of unwanted, unplanned pregnancy. Because when you say unwanted pregnancy, the effects even on that child, when the one is pregnant, you find out that the man will be looking at the woman that, after all, we didn't plan for it. He's not going to give all the support she needs during pregnancy and even when the baby comes. And that is not what we want. And also not forgetting the socioeconomic implication of unplanned pregnancies and also deliveries and babies, So by and large, we need to use this avenue and other fora we've been using to ensure that men give all the support. Sometimes you find people maybe out of misconceptions, or they say things like if a woman should, if she takes up a private planning method, she's probably going to be promiscuous. But really, that's not. A woman that will be promiscuous, whether she's married or not, will be promiscuous. Right. Yes, but when you talk about the importance of family planning, it ranges from the fact that if she has a baby, okay, some would say, yes, I don't want to have, until I finish having all my children before I can now plan my family. But really, it is planning. If you plan to fail, you fail to plan. Even if you are given, let's say, 3 or 6 months mat leave, there's still that possibility that you need all the time in the world to be able to recuperate and to be able to care for that child. But for those that do not know much about family planning and do not plan adequately, what happens? They go back with another pregnancy. The shame is there. They don't want to tell people that I'm back with another pregnancy. So why not just ask questions?
Right.
So we have all services in our PAT except the permanent method, which are the vasectomy and also sterilization. We do not do that at the primary health care level, but those ones can be done at the secondary and tertiary and in some standardized private facilities.
Right.
But for primary health care, all family planning methods, in fact, I bought a booklet here that I'll even have to drop one for you. So this says that know, talk and go. Frequently asked questions for life planning for adolescents and youth and child spacing. We need to start telling them on time, right from home, what they need to know. Because if they do not know whether we like it, if you do not tell them, they'll find out on their own. And in the process, they will not do it right. Keep using emergency contraceptives, which are not really advisable. So, but when you go to the health center, you have trained personnel that will do what we call balanced counseling. Balanced counseling, such that by the time the woman starts taking up a method, she's going to, if she decides to take a method, there's what we call informed consent. So you're not imposing what you think she should take. You are telling her, we also have something here, which is a recommendation by the World Health Organization. So it says medical eligibility criteria will for contraceptive use. So this is WHO recommendation. Right. If a woman comes, like we mentioned earlier, one of the reasons they do not take up family planning, you say, oh, my friend, I've done it before. So because my friend was spotting, or some will say, oh, she's putting on weight. Some say probably she's losing weight. So they come with that mindset.
So if I may come in, so those, you know, putting on weight or spotting, are those side effects of the family planning or contraceptives?
Yes, sometimes, you know, they are hormonals. And hormonals and body makeup also contributes. For us on the big side, regardless of whether you use family planning or not, method or not, there's a possibility that if you're going to put on weight, you're going to put on weight.
Right.
Do you understand? The same way, then sometimes you know that when you're in a particular method, your mind is at rest. You are so relaxed, you're not thinking of anything. Definitely you are going to look, you know, healthy. Whereas some people will use it and they're still maintaining the same body weight. But this neck wheel, like we refer to, they're going to ask questions that have to do with your family, your medical history, family history, and other methods to know which is most suitable for an individual. So it's an individualistic method of counseling, and the patient or the client as well makes an informed decision. So there's freedom for you to take up any method and use that method. And you cannot say, oh, this is the method that is most suitable for me until you actually start making use of that method. So, and in so doing, you know, sometimes because it's something that is new, the body, the physiology needs to adjust itself. So there's possibility, yes, in between, especially for some of the hormonal methods, you find out that maybe there's possibility of spotting. Some might see their menses, some might not see it. Afterwards, it regulates itself. But when we have complaints, we encourage them to come back to facility, you know, and we ask some questions and they do the needful. So for those that comply with the way it's meant to be used, you find that they always keep to their appointment and they get to use it for a longer period, as against people that just go to over the counter to get some of these things done. And at the end of the day, maybe if they're not using it religiously, you know, they now come up with, oh no, I used it and it didn't work.
Right. Okay, so for people who are not able to, you know, get family planning, and you mentioned emergency contraceptive is supposed to be for emergency.
Yes.
So if how often are they supposed to take it if they don't have access to the family planning? Because how risky is it? Because you mentioned that it's for emergency, so you're not supposed to be taking it frequently. So how are they supposed to take it? Can you guide our viewers through? Okay, ordinarily, you're supposed to take it within the first 72 hours post-exposure to unprotected sex. You know, that's when it's most effective. But anything outside of that, then the possibility of not preventing pregnancy comes in. But we should also remember that these are pills, and people that most times indulge in these practices, you find that the chances of being exposed to other sexually transmitted infections are very high. Okay. And that's why we encourage that people should go through the normal family planning process, whereby, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to take history.
want to know what your lifestyle is like, want to know what your medical history is like, then with that, we can be able to, you know, in the process, counsel accordingly. Then at the end of the day, if the lady or the guy, as it were, decides that this is the method I still want to use, but for the emergency contraceptive is not a major, like we said, emergency. And if it's not properly used, if you use it now, you can't be using it every day. Afterwards, it will not work because the process, there's a pathophysiology, or let me say there's a physiology that it takes. So a process, and if you, at the end of the day, you take it today, after you take it again, you find out that it will not work. Right. So, but if you go through a method that is approved, maybe we should just run through some of the methods we have that are available. So we have the long-term and we have the short-acting and the long-acting type of family planning. So the short-acting, of course, the one you just use, ones that which is very common, immediately we discard. That's the male and the female condom. You have to keep using every time the person needs to have sexual intercourse. Then for the oral pills, we have the ones that you have to take every day. In fact, oral pills, you have to take it religiously. If the woman does not take it consistently, she has to use it the same time of the day, and it has to be consistent. For that, it means that the person must be someone that that does not forget things easily. Then we also have the injectables. The injectables, we have the ones of 2 months and the one of 3 months. So the person takes it once in 2 months, that's in 8 weeks. Then we also have the one once in 12 weeks, which is not bad to come to the facility. Then we have the one that we call Cyana Press. This Cyana Press is self-injectable. However, before we start giving it out to the clients, she must have gone through 1 or 2 sessions whereby she'll be taught on how to administer it herself. And one of the benefits of this is that it reduces your visitation to the facility. So some of the constraints that probably people encounter in not taking up family planning, they say, oh, because I do not have the time to go to the hospital, I'm busy. So, but if she's been trained and she does it in front of the provider and the person certified that, yes, you can take it, then definitely she can continue with it. Then she comes back for follow-up. We also have the IUD and the IUCD. These ones, one is copper coated, while the other one is not. So, and like I mentioned, these are various methods. Then we also have implants. The implants, which is just put, you insert it just underneath the skin. So, and we have the one of 3 years, one of 5 years, while the IUD and the IUCD last longer, 10 years and the likes, they are long-acting. So majorly we have different methods, but and there's a method for every woman.
So, Nurse Rashida, I will have to, interject just a little bit. We'll be right back. Let's go on a short break, and when we come back, we have more conversations. My director said I have to thank you. I thought we, wanted to go to break. So thank you for joining us and, talking about contraceptive for our viewers to know and understand. Thank you really for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
So let's go on a short break. When we come back, we have more news. Welcome back to Breakfast Extra, and this is one of our big reports. History was made in Ibadan as Oba Rashid Adewolu Ladoja was crowned the 44th Olubadan of Ibadan land. The coronation drew traditional rulers, political leaders, and thousands of indigenes in a colorful celebration of heritage and unity. Beyond the pageantry, the event boosted trade as visitors thronged to the city, but it also came with security clampdowns and traffic restrictions. Residents spoke of renewed hope for stability and cultural presentation. Here, our News Central report, filed by Victor Mbadike, News Central correspondent. Take a look.
It is an electrifying scene here in Ibadan, as thousands dressed in colorful attire defy the scorching sun and stand for hours just to catch a glimpse of their new king. Access to the 81-year-old monarch remains nearly impossible, but some have devised unusual means to get closer. He was crowned at the Osemiji Temple by the Traditional Council in line with Ibadan's succession custom.
As he becomes the Olubadan now, I expect a turnaround with the system of Ibadan, especially the land grabbing issue. I know he's educated. He's a king with good stand of wisdom. I know he will see to it. Land grabbing will stop, and the chieftaincy title will be addressed.
Inú mi sì dùn Ọlọ́run jí mi láyọ̀, mo dẹ̀ débí láyọ̀. Gbogbo àwọn táwa bí náà, á délé wa ní ayọ̀ àti àlàáfíà.
Bàbá wa Ládọjà, ẹ kú oríire òní o.
The new king later received his staff and instruments of office from Governor Seyi Makinde here at Mapo Hall, a moment he will surely cherish in history.
Láti jẹ́ wọ́n ní wọ́n ti ń jẹ ọba nìbàdàn, ọmọ Ìbàdàn ni mí, ìǹdè mọ̀ pọ̀ ìrí, kó wá wọlé ọjọ́ òní, kó wọlé àwùjọba tí wọ́n kè ń jímọ̀ lẹ́nì, kó wá ṣàánú èmi náà, kó wá jẹ́ kí ọba wa Ládọjà kó pẹ́ lórí oyè.
I believe, someone believe that his tenure will be peaceful for us in this Oyo Ibadan and Oyo State generally, because event like this has never been held. This is not the first Oba we have in Ibadan, but this standout is nothing more or less of a carnival. We've never experienced such in Ibadan before.
Ǹjẹ́ ọmọ Ìbàdàn àti gbogbo ọmọ bíbí ìlú Ìbàdàn náà tí à ń fọkàn sí lásìkò wọn náà ni pé kí ló tù wá lára. Àkọ́kọ́ náà ìdùnnú bẹ̀ ni wípé ìgbà oyin ni a gbọ́ pé bàbá gbé. Tó bá yẹ pé wọ́n gbégbá tàbí wọ́n lọ gbégbá epo wàhálà ni.
The carnival-like ceremony ended with Ibadan hopeful under their new monarch, Oba Abdulrasheed Ladoja, who succeeds the late Oba Owolabi Olakunleyi.
This coronation is both a celebration of culture and a call to leadership. For the people of Oyo State, Oba Rashidi Ladoja's reign is expected to safeguard tradition while also guiding the city to a better future. In Ibadan, for News Central, Victor Badeke.
Olubadan throne carries deep history guarded by a succession system that reduces conflict. Still, past coronations have faced disputes and political tensions. Oba Ladoja's political stature could reshape expectations, with the state government pledging support, and elders urging preservation of Ibadan's tradition. Let's welcome News Central correspondent Victor Mbadike to talk us through the instances. Victor, good morning. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for that, beautiful report. And, I think the one thing that I took from one of the guys, he said, Baba came with a pot of honey and not with a pot of pepper. And you see the crowd was, just tell us, what was the atmosphere like?
What he intended to say there, what he was trying to say is that during the ritual, a prelude to when he was crowned king, there has to be some certain rituals they have to go through. He said he heard, or he learned that the Oba, carried a calabash, filled with honey, which literally means that honey is something that is sweet. So hopefully his tenure, his time as king will be sweet time and all of that. The crowd was not just because he was loved. It was an intense, crowd. Under the scorching sun, these guys have been there since 5 in the morning. Wow. It's not just a celebration of who Ladoja is himself, but the fact that they are celebrating tradition, the fact that Ladoja had known that he was going to be king just right after the demise of the former king, Oba Olakunleyi. It took him 32 years to get to this point. Beginning as the mortgage. Do not forget that over time, when we started having this conversation like this, the Olubadan has 2 lines, the civil line and the military line. So this particular Oba is from the civil line. He became the mortgage 32 years ago, waiting to become the Olubadan 32 years after. So what it means is that as he climbs the succession line of 22 positions, the most senior chief has to go. Let me use the word die. Yeah. Otherwise, there is no promotion. So the moment Olakunleyi that was the most senior chief in the Balogun line, he was the next in line. So for the fact that he was a one-time governor, one-time senator of Oyo South Central District, he's seen it all. He's seen it all. He's been a good guy. So this, the way the Badons, you could hear, so they also knew that since he's done well as a governor, he's done well as a senator, he would also do well as a king in their community. So it's a big deal for the Ibadan indigenes. Of course, having the president himself there, that speaks a whole lot of
Yes, the president was there. So let's talk about his speech. What did you take from his speech?
I understand a lot of permutations or background talks about whether the president actually came there for political reasons. But that's another conversation for another. But for him to have been there, they've been friends from way back, from 2003. When Ladoja himself was the governor for Oyo State, until 2007. Before that impeachment saga came up, Tinubu was there for him. They've been friends way back. So it's not like he came as with the toga of presidency, but he also came as a friend, as a matter of fact, with all his itinerary, ex-governors, governors, senators, ex-senators, all these big boys in politics were there to support him. So basically in his speech, he was, first of all, thankful to the people of Ibadan for supporting him. You don't forget that the prelude that led to his election, he was also in Ibadan to seek their support. And so he was thankful to them to say, thank you so much, guys, for supporting us. At the time I came to Ibadan, I was singing and shouting in Ilokon. Now we are here. So he's saying, thank you, guys, for supporting me. And also assured them that although the economy may not be what it is, what it should be, but he's doing everything he can to, change the narrative. As a matter of fact, things have been better. And, and all of that, while also, persuading and persuading other people to support their new king and all of that. Of course, when it was time for the acceptance speech of the king himself, full of praises as well, that the president would leave his high horse, so to say, to be in the Ibadan, And then one of the first things he said, which is really important, and a lot of people should note, that the president should pay attention to the clamor for Ibadan state. That has been in the offing for some time now. It has made headlines for some time. So he felt that it was an opportunity for him to present that case.
Talk about it,
this is what the Ibadan people are saying. We want our own state. And he's also saying that that should be actualized plus or minus before the end of 2027 when the next elections will come. So aside from that, he also had a word for the other traditional title holders in the city. Those who snack people's wives and those who grab lands. You had one of the speakers, one of the indigenous residents speak in that report. So basically it's just pretty much a case of party celebration. Do not forget that he had been crowned king before this Saturday by the Olubadan council at Orphanage House, which is not, no media have access to that. So what we saw was the governor himself, Seyi Makinde, giving the instrument of office to the king. And that is where his official reign began.
This is quite interesting. And I feel like, looking at the crowd, when you see a crowd like that and, there's a lot of cheer, it means we trust this person. We're confident that this person will, carry this mantle on. And, I can only imagine, the love and the energy. Were there other people, because we don't know the people who were supposed to attend, but were there other people, did you hear if there were any other person that was supposed to be there that didn't make it to the coronation?
Oh, well, it's normal for some persons to be absent. While some persons will send representatives, but if the president is there, who else do you need to be there? If President Tinubu will be there, what else? Although he may have appeared later. He came sometime within the hours of 1 or 2. They've been expecting since morning, but
and then you have people outside since 5 a.m.
I mean, it's all packed up. So if you have the president there, who of course by his influence would lead other top guns to be there. We had former governors, former senators. What else do you expect? Of course, you're not expecting Donald Trump to be there, but the president has given the highest honor really that he can ever give to the Ibadan people.
By showing up,
And with that crowd, I mean, the people knew that the president was going to be there. The people loved the king himself. They've been there since 5. Some of them left their offices, left whatever they were doing to be there. So it shows that the Ibadan people do not denigrate the role or the position or the values of monarchy in Ibadan community. So the king is the closest to the people, just like local government, but the king is really the closest to the people. So, so once they love you as a person, once they know that you can meet their needs, meet their demands, attend to whatever they feel is a challenge to them, they would definitely embrace you. So that's what you saw. You know, a lot of people saying, in hushed tones about Tojobalo, the king way past king, or the king is mother. So that's how much they love Ladoja himself, who I believe is a very lucky man. He was a one-time governor, one-time senator, and now the king of his community. The only position he may...
And to think that, they forced him into politics.
I don't know that. But there's one highlight that is quite funny to me. The governor of Oyo State, Seyi Makinde, was a one-time protege of the king himself. In 2015, when he was in a court party, because the king himself created or established that party, a court party. His candidate at the time in governorship election 2015 was Seyi Makinde.
Wow.
When he raised his hand up and all that. So the times changed, and the governor is the one raising down. So it was just,
you know,
it's just good to be good. It's just good to be nice. It's just good to be yourself.
You never really know.
Absolutely.
I think he has been, you know, patient and consistent. You know, when I said, you know, they forced him because, you know, when I was trying to read about him, they showed where he has been a businessman, and his friends like, the way you give us, you know, advices, don't you think you should join politics? He's like, no, and here you are.
Absolutely.
So congratulations to him.
To all the
Ibadan people and the chair, and of course the pot of honey. I don't know why I took that, but yeah, everybody wants a pot of honey. Victor, thank you so much for that report.
Thank
it was
you
really
guys.
beautiful.
I must thank the team who made it seamless for us.
Yes.
From the driver to
that is
the
News
camera
Central.
person.
We do that.
It was a tough battle. It was not easy getting access into that kind of
I can only imagine.
But they did all they could, and they gave us the best that they could. So many thanks to Mario and to Samuel himself.
Thank you also.
Guys.
News Central crew. Pot of honey for you guys. Well, there you have it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to Breakfast Extra, the Sunday edition, you know, and thank you for being here and getting to have this conversation with us from Abuja to Kano to Asaba, and of course Contraceptives, and of course to Ibadan with Victor. And don't forget to tune in during the week to see Joe Hansen, Olive, and Benga for Breakfast Central. And of course, we'll see you next weekend. Do take care. Happy Sunday.